welcome to today's video. My name is Jeannie. If you are new here, I am a 6'2" self-projected projector. I have a defined head, ajna, throat, and G-center, and they're all connected straight down the middle channels, thus making me a pure individual. Whew. I never know if I should include that or not, because I feel like when I watch other people's content that I'm familiar with, I kind of get bored of them repeating it. But if you're new here, that might help give you a little bit of context about my design. Today I want to talk about something that I started to become more aware of. And if you follow me on my Instagram page, you know that I love going to the car wash. Like, I love driving a clean car. It's just something that feels like really, really good to me, and that's something that I'm very intentional about. I do keep myself pretty structured around that, keeping the car clean. So I love going to the car wash. And I went to the car wash about 2 weeks ago, maybe, give or take. And I've been to the car wash a couple of times again, because like I said, I love keeping the car clean. And I just signed up at this new car wash that's a lot closer to home, because there's another one that I used to go to, but it was way further. It felt like more out of the way, so I really wasn't using the service as much, and I just dreaded going there. So now that this is closer, I really, really, really love going to the car wash. So the other day, I went to the car wash, and I got in the little conveyor belt thingy, and I'm waiting for it to start, and all of a sudden, I look up, and this isn't the first time I've seen the sign, but this is the first time where I really saw the sign, and it said, "Enjoy the ride, get ready to shine," or something like that. And there's something about reading that sign on that particular day that kind of hit differently, and I started thinking about that, enjoy the ride. And one of the first things that popped into my mind was what are my mental references to a ride. And the first thing that came to my mind was a roller coaster ride, or theme parks that have rides, or amusement parks, or things like that. Now, I am not a huge fan of amusement parks. I don't think I've ever been on an adult roller coaster. I might have been on a kiddie roller coaster as a teen, young adult once or twice, and that was way too much for my system. So I tend to avoid theme parks. When I was around maybe anywhere from 8 to 10, my parents surprised me with a trip to Walt Disney World in Florida. I don't know if that's the right one, but the first day that we were there, I got so sick, and we all thought that it was something that I had eaten. But I remember as soon as we got into our hotel room, I just started feeling so much better, and I was jumping on the bed. I was hungry, I was eating. Now, years later, I realized that it was the environment. There was something about the amusement park that really stimulated my nervous system, overstimulated my nervous system in the worst way possible, and my body was not having it. So that's the mental reference that I have with rides. So when I see this sign that says "enjoy the ride," I'm like, ugh, but I don't like rides. What? But it felt like there was something in it, in that message for me. So as I'm going through the car wash, I started contemplating, maybe I have this very fixed, defined ajna mental reference of what I consider or perceive a ride to be like. Scary, body doesn't feel good, not enjoyable, not fun, terror, fear, nothing positive. But then I started thinking about oh, this essentially is a ride, I'm riding through the car wash, but it was a slower ride. There's water, but I'm safe. All the windows are up. I'm not getting wet. There's pretty colors with the soap or something that they use to like give the car the shine. So I'm like, oh, this is actually, this is a ride that I actually like because I love going to the car wash. So that was it. Like I finished washing the car, and then that same week, I went to the store to buy these massage rollers and stuff like that because I've really been working on helping my body release the tension. And when I'm getting back in the car, I see this car parked in front of me that said, again, enjoy the ride. And then it said something about like life, you're not going to live forever or something like that. You're eventually going to die or something like that. But again, the thing that caught my attention was enjoy the ride. And this was like the second time that I had seen the message in a relatively short amount of time. So I'm like, okay, let me continue to contemplate this. But this time when I saw that message, enjoy the ride, what dropped in for me, like I started thinking like, but like when did I agree to get on this ride? Like I didn't consent to this, thinking, like my whole journey, especially these past couple of years with the grief and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of unknowns and a lot of change and like a lot of areas in my life that have been feeling like they're collapsing and like a lot of newness and a lot like it's been a lot. So I'm having this conversation with God and I'm like, when did I sign up for this? Like I did not consent for this. Like what about this is fun? Like I don't understand. Like why do you keep on telling me to enjoy the ride? Because I would like to get off this ride, please. I don't like this one. So after pausing long enough for a couple of insights to drop in, again, I thought of how in my mind I tend to think of like rides as intense and roller coasters and chaotic and things like that. And then I started to think about how, like a car ride, for example, where I started to think about how, like, when I was younger, especially with mom, we did a lot of road trips. And I do love taking road trips. I haven't been on a road trip in a long time, essentially since she passed away, because she was my travel buddy as well. But I recently had been feeling the nudge to go on a road trip. The only thing that's kind of holding me back is that I've never driven for more than 2 hours at a time. So I'm just letting that desire bubble. But I started using that reference of a road trip or riding in the car but having like someone else drive and being able to enjoy the scenery or what I see outside the window. And when I looked at it from that perspective, I thought about my dad, because when my dad was alive, he was the one that drove most of the time, and I was able to be the passenger princess. And I haven't been a passenger princess in a very long time. So I started thinking about like whenever he drove, and let's say we were going through like fancy neighborhoods, like I love, or not even fancy neighborhoods, but different neighborhoods, I love looking at different houses. That's something that does light me up a lot, but I had forgotten about that because for the most part now that I drive, I keep my eyes on the road and I feel like I miss out on seeing a lot of things, right? So I'm like, okay, what if the mistake I've been making is I keep on, having that mental reference as a ride being chaotic and intense and being really hard on myself because I can't, my nervous system, my body doesn't like, it really can't handle that type of ride where I currently am. Now, do I see myself as a roller coaster person in the future? Probably not, but I'm like, okay, what if it's not, if that's okay, like I don't have to be a roller coaster person, but what if, I'm the type of person that likes car rides and I like to be able to observe. And then this took me down this thought pattern of like how much I like to observe. I'm not much into participating, like actively jumping in there and like wanting to, take a lot of action. I like to observe, but there are times where like once I feel really comfortable and I really like find the thing that draws my attention, I will want to give it a try. Now, there's a lot of aspects in my chart that point to like me being really, really, really selective. I'm markets environment, I'm taste cognition, like I am super, super selective. So, keeping this in mind, I started to one, get more curious. Like, how can I take something that, or maybe like be more open to something that I didn't think I would be into, and just trying it out from a place of curiosity and experimenting, not making myself or not pressuring myself to stick to it if it just I end up not liking it. Like being okay with more of like the third line energy of trial and error. And then the other thing that I started thinking about was how like on road trips that I had taken with mom in the past, like as we were driving through certain towns or whatever, if there was something that caught my attention or caught her attention, we would detour and go explore that. So I'm like, oh, that sounds like something that I was familiar with, and really started to, I don't know, I feel like hit that G center, that sense of direction of like, oh, I don't have to worry so much, or okay, when I say worry too much, what I got, one of the biggest pieces that I got from this message, enjoy the ride, is that I realized how much I was wanting to rush through things. I have an undefined root. Wanting to rush through things, and I was focusing more on the end result. And once I started contemplating it from that perspective, I started to notice that I had been receiving more messages on guiding me to enjoy the process and not be so outcome or results oriented, which for me was hard because I tend to be very like result oriented, efficiency, and projector thing, perfectionism, childhood stuff, and all that. So I'm like, okay, let me contemplate this. Let me brew. Let me allow this to brew in the background and really be able to take in what it is that I'm being, like the messages that I'm receiving, because like I had received that one of like not enjoying the process, but it's like I received it, but I was rushing through it, so it didn't really click. So with these messages of enjoy the ride and the thought process and all that, it was starting to come together, and I was starting to see where I could be doing a little bit better, where I could clean up my energy a little bit more, because I've been rushing through things. It's like, and it was this cycle of like, okay, we get through it, and then what's next? We got through that, and then, okay, what's next? But I wasn't really enjoying the process of getting from point A to point B. So once I really got it, like enjoy the ride, how can I allow myself to slow down, but then also be mindful, because then I tend to like go from 0 to 60 and from 60 to 0, very extreme in nature. And I'm like, okay, just be mindful of that. If I slow down too much, then I tend to procrastinate. So again, a little bit of trial and error until I find the balance and the flow that's going to work for me. And also reminding myself that it's going to look differently in different seasons of life. And there was something else. Let me see if I can get it back. Okay, I think this was it, because I started talking about how during road trips, sometimes like I would see, or either me or someone else that was on the road trip would see something that would catch their attention, whether it was like, it could be anything. Like I remember once we were, I think it was in South Carolina, and I saw like this huge fire hydrant fountain thing, but I never said anything about it, and I always regretted not being able to go take a closer look. But in other trips, like I did mention, oh, I'd like to go here. Like, for example, we would always take road trips to Mexico, and we would pass through Louisiana. And there's something about the French Quarter that really draws me in. Not so much the environment, because the environment does feel a little bit, I don't know, the vibes there can be a little bit intense. But the architecture, I love the buildings, the streets. Something about that really caught my attention. So we would stop through Baton Rouge throughout, the trips that we did, and we would get to explore. Other times, like, we would take different routes. There was one time where we went through Corpus Christi. But now when I look back, I do realize how much there was still a lot of fear in my system, and I didn't really enjoy those stops as much as I could have. So I'm like, okay, this is a good reminder and a good lesson for me of how can I slow down and not make that slowing down mean that I'm not going to get to where I think I want to go. And how sometimes, like, there are going to be detours, because if I'm trusting and asking God to be my GPS, then whatever route I am guided to take, even if it's one that, like, in retrospect was a little bit longer, there was something about it being a longer journey, because there's, like, let's say, a point of attraction on the longer route that was going to be of higher benefit for me, that was going to bring me more wisdom, more enjoyment, or whatever it may be, than if I had taken a shorter, more efficient route. So I feel like there's something else that I'm forgetting to mention, but if it drops in later, well, then we might do a part 2 to this. So, okay, that's essentially what I wanted to share, how I am learning to enjoy the ride. And it's so interesting how I feel like this reminder and this helping me create awareness around that lesson of slowing down and learning to enjoy the process, even with things that don't feel fun. Because, like, another thing that I've been doing is getting really intentional about cleaning up my environment, because there is a lot of clutter, and I have gotten quite used to it, and it is more comfortable avoiding it and not tending to it than tending to it, because it's not fun. It feels like a lot of work. So one of the things that I've been, again, using this concept of enjoy the ride, is thinking of, like, how can I enjoy this process, even though it feels like hard work, even though it feels like I don't want to do it, even though it feels like there is a lot of resistance, because, like, that's another thing that I could talk about, how much I am not about hard work. So I've had to reframe that a little bit, and also get very honest with myself that it got to the point of it being hard work because of all the things that I have been actively avoiding. So one of the things, again, that, like, every time I start, like, let's say, cleaning up the environment, I'm not feeling it, I'm really struggling, like, I hear enjoy the ride, so that reminds me, I'm like, okay, fine, help me see, how can I enjoy this? Okay, I start thinking about all the great things that are going to happen once the environment is clean. Like, I'm going to be able to welcome people back into my house. I'm going to enjoy, like, one of the things that I really, really love to do that I had forgotten about is that I love to cook, and I love to have people over for dinner and hosting and things like that. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's something that I feel excited about, and this is just part of the process for me to get to that, that part where I can start hosting people and really, like, start renovating the house and just making so many improvements that are long overdue. So yeah, that's essentially what I wanted to share today. Enjoy the ride, enjoy the process, and sometimes it can take a little bit of reframing the situation to help us enjoy even the parts that feel messy or sticky or, like, not fun or, like, hard work. So yeah, that's what I have for you. If you are interested in having support, what do I want to call these? It's like, it can be so hard to describe what it is that I do, because it's just, Like, I asked my people that I worked with in the past, like, how would you describe what it is like working with me? And it's like, we can't. So that's why I'm kind of like, I want to share with y'all, like, how y'all can work with me and, like, what that's like. But it's like, I don't have the words because that's kind of what it's like. um, but yeah, I'm going to be calling these, like, guidance sessions if you feel like you would like an objective view, someone to hold space for you, someone to ask you questions and to lead you to the answers that are inside of you. I am really great at reading people. I am really great at reading energy. I'm really great at guiding. Um, so yeah, I do have a couple of spots available if you feel called to working with me. Um, I invite you to reach out. I really like, I just keep on thinking about how my design plays into the sessions that I have with people. I have a very mutative design. So if you are kind of sick and tired of repeating the same experience over and over again, and you're ready for a transformation, if you're ready for a quantum leap, a really massive shift in your awareness, I'm your person. It's just, to me, like, one of my favorite parts in sessions is when people have these insights drop in and they reach these new levels of awareness, but it's really like awareness after awareness after awareness sometimes that even blows me away. So yeah, if you would like to work with me, feel free to find more information, or you can find more information on my website and also on my Instagram page. I'm going to leave all that information down below in the description box. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, insights, or stories you would like to share, I invite you to drop those down in the comments down below. I always love connecting with y'all through the comments. Whew, yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.